Hi, everybody.
Good evening. What do we do?
I guess I'll do it.
All right,
because I made Anthony too sad before the podcast started, so he had to hit the play button because he wanted to be less sad. I don't know why he thought that would work.
Get me out of here.
But hello, everybody. This is episode 21 of Stat Check. 9 Flamers Flaming. As you can guess, we probably have some chaosy things to talk about today. And as you can also see, we are -1 Team Scotland captain, Innes, who is taking a well-deserved night off. So he kind of let me do this really badly. So I'll do plugs halfway through like he does. Otherwise, welcome to the show. And how was your weekend, Jeremy and or Anthony?
My weekend was pretty good. I played a shitload of 40K this weekend. Yeah, it starts to blur together after a while between the TTS and the real life games. I am not doing a good job of mentally segregating the things now, so it all just smashes together. I've taken on more of an expanded role in doing Team USA stuff, so I am very, very busy all the fucking time now. Doing my best. Oh, hello, chat that all said hi at the same time. Jamie and Alex and Charles and that one guy whose name is literally that one guy. All right. Yeah, things have been good. 2 weeks till Mythicos event. It's gonna be wild. I've been playing my creations nonsense list featuring the Black Mace now. It's funny. It's definitely a thing that exists. That army definitely does not ask a lot of me as a pilot unless it's a really unfavorable matchup. So that part's cool. Hello, more of people in chat. But yeah, my weekend was good. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing all right. Feeling a little under the weather. I figured just a bit of con crud creeping in. I went to a team event this past weekend. 50 of us crammed into a room. Lots of fun. But it was a great weekend. It was put on by the assistant captain for Team Canada this year, Bruno. We took the Canhammer crew down there and
beat them senseless.
We stole more of the Montrealers' medals, would be the best way of putting it, because the first and second place teams were both out of towners.
Yeah, that's what they get for speaking mostly French.
Pretty much.
True.
Bam.
I probably shouldn't say that since I'll be in France in like 3 weeks and they might find me.
Yeah.
Just pilfer some of their team medals. I don't know.
I'll just sneak into a store one day and just take all of their team medals and walk out.
Quickly, get the American.
Oh, Jesus. I'm very obviously American as well. It just won't help. I'm not nearly fashionable enough for all this.
Yeah. That's pretty good that you guys won the event without any notable players on your team or whatever you said last week.
Francois would not let me forget that. That's for sure.
Yeah, you get to not live that down for forever.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You really should just make Francois' jersey this year. Just
non-notable.
Unnotable.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry,
Francois. You are permanently known as the unnotable.
Is he number 1 in Canada yet?
No, he's not. Riley is still number 1.
Slacking then.
Yeah,
like
he's not farming. He's farming those prairie events that we can't make our way out to.
Number 1's number 1, bro.
It's true. Yeah, if he hadn't run into 18 flamers round 5 of our GT last weekend, he would have won.
What? He did.
No.
He played a really well-practiced, notable professional player, Nick.
Poor Nick, friend of the show, Nick, who managed to get an event win.
Did he win or did his flamers win?
Oh, he definitely played that very well, because there were other people who brought Thousand Suns and Flamers. I think there were 4 others at that event, and he was the only one to go undefeated with them. So clearly, skill.
All right.
Clearly,
I guess this time it's fine.
Nick can be the notable until further notice. Then Nick the notable.
Yeah, Nick the notable. Oh, I'm gonna go change his Discord name.
For fun shenanigans like that, you can join our Discord and be a member of our Patreon. get your nickname changed randomly during the middle of the show.
Yeah.
Nick is great. I guess I should go. I didn't do anything 40K related. It was Thanksgiving weekend, so there was no 40K. That was notable. I played a couple games with New Guard on TTS, and that was kind of it. New Guard is very good. That's all I'll say on that topic. Really,
You don't say.
really, really excited to watch people cry as like 10 caster can teleport out of the middle of nowhere and then like pop 300 points worth of stuff for 2 CP. It'd be great.
No, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking to somebody who kept telling me that that I should build 18 Sentinels, and I was like, that seems unwise, but sure. We can talk about that later, Jeremy. We can talk about it later. We'll do a whole guard segment in the middle because apparently last week when I was listening in, they were like, we don't want to talk about guard stuff because Nathan's not here, as if I'm some kind of expert.
I'll just get up and leave.
No, you're not allowed to. You got to stay here. I listen to you and Innes wax philosophic about all kinds of bullshit all the time.
Man, I hate guards so much.
I know, bud. I know.
Which do you hate more, guard players or custody players?
Custodes players is not close, but the almost as much as I have disdain for AdMech players, their army is as good as it deserves to be right now. What was I gonna say? Are you gonna tell the entire set of viewership you're almost joining the military story before you talk to them about guard? Because I feel like that's important.
Oh God, it's funny because I hadn't even remembered that existed, and Anthony like mentioned it to me in a chat once, and I was like, "God damn, Anthony!" I hadn't even remembered this memory. He dug out an ancestral memory from almost 20 years ago.
Yeah,
and I was like, "But I don't do that at the table. I didn't even remember it until you reminded me of it." So
every guard player's got a story.
I will tell you, though, if you bring that up at the table, you're probably a terrible person for it. Like, don't do that. Just leave people alone.
Come on, bro.
Keep that stuff to yourself. Or at least if you have a story, have like the propensity to tell like the part where you didn't join because you have like flat feet or something. I don't know.
No, that's the whole thing. That they're like, Don, dude, I got these bone spurs, or I get like real tired at night, so I couldn't join. Not because I was never gonna join.
See, I at least got threatened with complete and total disownment. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Although I'll tell a story to people in Discord at some point about like the whole after effects of that with stuff, but that can be a Discord only story that I'm not going to broadcast on YouTube for.
Yeah, I mean, you ended up in academia. Clearly, it did some form of psychic damage.
Definitely did psychic damage, not only to me, but also to my brother, apparently. But again, later. I guess we can talk about stats for the week, and then we can do plugs, because that's what we'll do today. And since me and Jeremy are both on, we can talk about stats super extra hard and watch Anthony's like brain actually.
I'm just gonna mute and lean back. Ready? Go.
First, we'll just talk about some of the overrep data from this week. So I'm gonna let Jeremy do that because do you have this spreadsheet in front of you, or should I just do it?
Of course I do.
Okay. Why don't you talk about this week's data, and then I'll do the meta dashboard data at the end.
Sure, that's great. And we've also updated the ELO and CRS, so we can talk a little bit about that, but there hasn't been much movement in the top. So rounding out the weekend, kind of not really surprising anyone, was Chaos Demons with a 65.2% win rate, a 2 event wins, and an overrep of 3.45. 22 players, so not a small sample size, over 100 games played. Demons are on fire. Surprising kind of no one right now, because this has just been going for the last few weeks. And it's funny, every single time that I do my my faction ranking update, I just see Demons climbing further and further up to the point where I think next week, if this continues, they're actually going to unseat Harlequins, who have sat at the top of our faction ranking since I launched it back in July.
That'd be wild.
Yes. Rounding, so second place and really on their heels is the Leagues of Votan, 11 players, a 67.5% win rate, 1 event win, and an overrep of 2.3. Sisters, not too far behind them, same number of players, same number of event wins, same overrep, but only a 55% win rate only. Then rounding out the top 5, we have Chaos Soup, 31 players. Almost all of that is some variant of X plus Flamers. So T-Suns with Flamers, Bile with Flamers, Black Legion with Flamers, you know. But everyone loves taking those things. And a couple Emperor's Children with Flamers, because not all TOs are reasonable human beings.
It sounds to me like the real recipe for success here is just if you can find a way to fit 12 to 18 flamers and like a cheap HQ, you're kind of set so that you can just do that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like Thousand Suns are sitting in like the 50 to 54% win rate most weeks, and Thousand Suns with Flamers are sitting in the 58 to 62% win rate. So all you got to do to make your Thousand Suns win more is take out 500 points and put in 500 points of Flamers. And then rounding out the top 5, they had a 62.9% win rate, 2 event wins, and an over 2.04. And then finally, you have Tau, totally dead faction, 23 players, 43% win rate, but a 1.65 over rep. So
shout out to those absolute heroes throwing all their games so that people could keep winning events with them untouched.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to that when we talk to the meta dashboard. I'm pretty sure that Tau are still looking similar in the skill matter / win mat / what the fuck area of not the what the fuck is down here, but in that top quarter of skill matters and too strong, because you just look at the breakdown and it's casual players are dragging the win rate down considerably compared to experienced tournament goers,
which is definitely not happening to CSM.
Seth is asking the very important question of, is that a Chaos Christmas sweater, Anthony?
This is a Chaos Christmas sweater.
Perfection. So I guess we can talk about the dashboard very quickly because we don't want Anthony's brain to explode if we talk about too much math today.
You can talk about math as much as you want while you're both here. You probably should. I just can't contribute a ton to that part.
I know, bud. But we won't. We won't. We're going to talk about the meta dashboard that I love the titles on so much. I just love that Cliff did this. So we have Quadrant 1, where skill matters, where you have a high differential between veteran and casual, with veteran having the higher win rate. You have 2 strong, where both veterans and casuals both have a high win rate. You have the WTF quadrant, which currently has 2 factions in it, which is where casuals have a higher win rate than veterans. And then you have the most fun quadrant, which is the objectively bad quadrant, which is where all the factions that exist that have both bad veteran and bad casual win rates.
Are you talking about the Ultramarine one?
Yeah, there's an Ultramarine one right here with a 28% veteran and a 40% casual.
How are they not in the bottom right?
Because their win rate is still terrible.
Oh, their win rate is so bad that it's like
their win rate is so bad that it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
Yeah, like you'll still see some big difference, but it's just like Space Wolves.
Oh, I understand now.
31% veteran, 49% newcomer. That is almost in the WTF category, but their overall is so low that they just don't factor in.
If you're under 50 on both of them, you're in this quadrant.
Gotcha.
It just means you're bad. But if you're over 50 into casual and under 50 with the veterans, then you get to be put over here in the WTF quadrant with Imperial Knights, who have a 62% casual and a 47% veteran win rate.
That doesn't make any sense. Just at all. Dude, that's so many games played. Like, not in general. I know 411 is like a crazy number.
That's a fair number of games.
To have that result, that's a lot of games played. That's pretty funny.
The other entertaining one is Craft World Eldar, who have a 54% casual win rate and a 49% veteran win rate.
I also don't understand that one at all.
This one has 624 games played in it. It's fun. And then
Custodes, perfectly balanced, right in the middle.
49 and 50. It's great.
There's another.
Good. I think there's another symbol right under it, which is the Grey Knight symbol, which I can't click on because the Custodes symbol is overlaid directly on top of
it.
And
sisters are real close there as well. But
yep, just right up here.
Now, one thing to note: this is just since the balanced data slate.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a ton of data for that at the moment. Where's the baby of the group? Thanks, easy peasy. Innes got jabbed today for all of his flu, COVID, usual jabs, and is feeling a little under the weather, so he will not be joining us this evening.
The I'm going to America, oh God, science help me.
Basically, I think the most important thing that is on this chart though is this. This is what I think the most important piece of this is.
Yeah, that's scary.
Look at that juicy 67% veteran win rate for Leagues of Votan and a 56% casual win rate with only 200 games played and an overall win rate of 57%. And that's a lot of it with not even having the full codex online.
I'm sure it's fine.
Sure, it's fine. We'll see. We'll see how fine it is. They went up to 67.5% win rate with all of their data sheets suddenly activated and won another event. So definitely it's all okay.
Did GSC sneak into 2 strong?
They did.
Nice.
And again, but if you look at it, the casual versus veteran.
The casuals are still winning more with the GSC at 59% versus the veterans, which is 52.
They're a bit close to the what the fuck quadrant. Yeah.
Which honestly is probably where GSC should be just for the fun of it, because GSC is such a WTF faction, just generally speaking, that I think it's kind of amusing.
Where's that? Which one of those is CSM? Is that Red Star or Black Star there?
I mean, doesn't matter. The purple, they're right on top of each other. So purple is Chaos Soup, and then
neither
red is
of those
Chaos
is CSM.
Demons. And CSM is
to the left. I see it.
All right.
It hovers directly between bad and
it's at a 50% on
there's
veteran,
Chaos Space Marines. Yeah, right there. So you have Chaos Space Marines here with a 50 veteran and a 47% casual. And then you have Chaos over here, which might be a problem with a 56 and 60. And then Demons, which also might be a problem with 54 and 60. But it's interesting to see that casual versus veteran dichotomy start to break up a little bit, because it used to be it was just all veteran all the time. And we've seen more factions kind of scoot into a world where the casual win rate is higher than the veteran win rate.
What's the top right one?
This one? It's Imperium.
Oh, it's
and like I was talking about in our chat earlier, that Imperium soup is, I think it's like 70%, like 40 or 50 of those games is sisters with some variant of knights.
I see.
It's Bloody Rose with Hunters of Beasts, or Bloody Rose with like Blessed Arms or something else. But the Bloody Rose Hunters of Beasts combo is seeing a lot of play in Europe right now.
It's also only 60
play
games
on our side of the pond.
Dude, it blows up Harlequins.
Yes, it does. Especially when they don't run light.
Yeah.
Then we'll click on the next part because I find this amusing. This faction win trends from October 30th through November 27th, where everything is just kind of here.
Yeah.
So do me a favor. Expand the meta to since the demons came out. So Nephilim 1-1. Yeah. Don't include the custom missions. Yeah, so you can see even from back of September, everything is really collapsed into there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much collapsed into the 55 to 45 range. There's like some stuff still outside of it, mostly chaos or mostly loyalist marine factions and Titanicus of various varieties. I do think there's one thing that I want to uncheck, and then I'm going to recheck it. So we're just going to uncheck Chaos Demons real quick. And then I'm going to just check Leaks of Votan. Mostly because I just want people to see this. So we started out with like 52, went up to 56. It went down a little bit, but we're climbing up again now that the full kind of range is starting to turn on. Mm-hmm. And people, I think, are starting to catch up with both all the data sheets being on and the factions starting to get played more. And like people are catching up on hobby. So we're going to start seeing like a ton more of this just happening. And we're going to start getting good data on Leagues of Votan. And everybody has to remember, this is post pretty significant nerfs of Votan.
15 to 20% on most data sheet costs.
They lost like a quarter of their army before they released, and this is where we're at.
So what I want to tell everybody is like they're currently doing great. And the faction got nerfed immediately because of complaints about them being too powerful. Now imagine if they had 400 points more stuff. Like where this win rate would be. And
Nope.
I want to tell every Votan player who thinks the nerfs were too hard to stuff it, basically, is my summary statement of this. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I think we've all had enough of staring at pretty lines that Cliff puts together. All the kudos to Cliff for getting that updated today before we did the show so that I can present fun graphs on screen.
Oh, yeah.
And then Jeremy mentioned this. I'll just go through the CRS and then the pure ELO scores real quick so people can see where the top 10 kind of is at. First place is Tom Ogden. I don't think that's really changed at all. Second place for CRS is Manny Chima. Third is Vic Vijay, friend of the podcast, Vic Vijay. Mike Porter in fourth. Nassim in fifth. Jack Harpster in sixth. TJ Lanigan in seventh. Marshall Peterson in eighth. Brett the Catacan Urbanowski and then is in ninth. And then our own Innes Wilson is in 10th on the CRS. So that's the
He's climbing.
ELO plus faction performance situation. And then Anthony, our leading violent member, is in 15th overall, not to leave him out. For pure ELO, the situation is a little bit different. So this is not taking into account faction performance. We have Colin McDade in first, Mike Porter in second, David Gaylord in third, Thomas Ogden in fourth, Manny Chima in fifth, John Lennon in sixth, Michael Duff, which is a name I've never heard before, in seventh, Anthony in eighth. It's in all caps. Nathaniel Bjorga in ninth. I can only think that that's how I'm supposed to say it.
Yeah.
Daniel Olivas in 10th. And then Innes is in 19th on this in pure ELO.
LGT just smothering him.
Basically. So that is your CRS and ELO update. We'll probably update you again in like a couple weeks, probably before the holiday. Going into LVO, we'll probably update again. But otherwise, we'll probably just update as it shifts, as we see change in movement going into it. Otherwise, you can find both that and the dashboard on www.stat-check.com, where you can find the meta dashboard, CRS, ELO, and our faction ranking system, as well as our articles and the events that we sponsor as well. And then Vic saying he's third in CRS, but 47th in ELO. It's true.
Well, you can't beat anyone good, or you play factions that are too strong, so when you lose with them, it looks really bad.
Possible.
Take your pick, Vic. You could be either of those could be true.
Or you've just lost a couple games that you really shouldn't have lost from an ELO perspective, and you just win everything else.
Throwing.
It's true. We're not going to talk about standard deviations. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Nobody really wants to see it.
They make me.
I'm sure somebody wants to, but that's just a data nerd thing that we don't need to deal with in life today. Anything else we want to talk about from this week or last week in stats? Because I know y'all were here.
I'm going to call it Vic right now. That is saying his CRS is high because he's not taking the strongest factions. Vic, what are you taking to Leicester this weekend?
Does it have 18 flamers in it?
I think it's only got 15.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's only 15. We could pull it up right now if we wanted to, because lists are live for Leicester.
Do we want to, just to annoy Vic?
Where's Yokel on the ELO and the CRS stuff? He's got to be quite high. He just keeps doing well.
Jokel is 139th in ELO. And he is 275th in CRS.
That's a man that plays powerful factions usually.
Yeah, he also only has 28 games in our system.
How's that?
I'm now wondering about that.
Maybe Homeboy needs an update.
Maybe. Might also be one of those problems where certain characters don't get translated properly, so they end up having multiple entries.
So there's 8 yokels in the ELO and CRS right now.
I mean,
there's definitely a possibility of that.
As I learned while gathering stats for Team Scotland's like matrix stuff that that we work on in the background, which Jeremy is being a huge assist on. There, we learned that there are like multiple people with the same name depending on how they enter it in BCP.
Nice.
Sometimes one version of your name has a higher win percentage than the other one. I won't name names, but I definitely
Oh,
have
I
named
will.
names.
Matty Gibson, stop changing your name in BCP because I've noticed that you are now Matthew John Gibson, which means I need to update things again.
Damn it, Maddie.
Look, Maddie, you got to stop this, or I'm going to find a way to get you no longer on the team because
Well, you
I
just-
don't want to track it.
Just show up and just rub his shoulders, bro. Breaks him down.
It's,
Bring
It's true.
bring a massage gun with me and just like hammer it home.
No, it's got to be your hands.
Oh, it has.
and I also did just check. No,
It's good
actually,
hands.
Joko only has 5 GT Plus events this year.
Oh. All right.
He played at the Alliance Open this weekend where he went 6-1 and finished 4th. Well done.
That's a really good run.
That is an amazingly good run with Tyranids on top of that. He went 4-1 at the LGT, finished 64th, 4-2 at War Masters, which again, holy fuck, doing that well at War Masters is really good. 3-2 at the Bristol GT and 4-1 at Manchester.
Yeah. Man's a killer. Literal
Okay.
former esports pro, by the way.
Nice. Now I
Alright.
can shame Vic, by the way, who we all enjoy quite a bit and love his show, 40K Fireside, but we're going to shame him for the number of flamers he has.
Can't believe it, Vic. Vic, you are the problem with competitive 40K. Or
He
so
has
said in an email that went out
14
today.
flamers, 2 units of 5 and a unit of 4.
Oh,
He has 10 Scarab Cult Terminators, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units of 5 Rubric Marines.
That's
An
a lot of
Infernal
idiots.
Master, an Exalted Sorcerer, and then Ahriman in Occulted Duplicity.
yeah.
Good list.
And I don't want to... He also has Fate Skimmer with Bolt to Change and Infernal Gateway, for fun.
Does his Fate Skimmer have the Retinue of Horrors, or is he trolling?
Retinue of Horrors is on it, yeah.
Okay. That would have been funny if it wasn't.
I'm not going to read out every single
Did you-
your option in your
did you-
army, Vic.
Did you actually put plasma pistols on all your inspired?
He did. They
sorcerers?
all
I
have
don't-
they all have plasma pistols. He has a Soul Reaper cannon in every. And
Vic, please. Why?
Vic, you give them the goddamn flamers, not the plasma pistols.
It's okay. He's just really got the flamers on them, but he's gonna try and take a 10-point loss round 1. Just
Don't worry,
submarine.
it'll be misery in the next few events after Vic wins the Leicester Open. Like 8 people will be copying his list in every event from now on, basically, and it'll be
Yeah.
terrible. He's the cause of my misery and everybody else's. Anybody else that wants to get shamed live on air, please submit and let me know, and we'll read out your list and shame you live when we don't have enough content to talk about.
Jeremy,
maybe
what's
quick?
oh
What?
what's
go ahead.
what's Liam's rankings in the CRS and ELO?
Our good friend Vessel.
Yeah, because if you could include internet clout and how good everybody knows he is, he'd be real high. But I'm curious what the data numbers say.
Liam is ranked 108th in the CRS. He is
Mhm.
18-2-1. He actually jumped 100 ranks this weekend
Yep.
because he had a really good
Gaming.
run at the Alliance Open, and then he is 86th in overall ELO. He again jumped 116 ranks this weekend.
Yeah, that guy's a murderer. He's the best player that isn't a household name.
He really should be at this point.
Yeah, 100%. Actual
Sure, Hadar.
monster.
We can also shame you and Chris in later episodes when we see your lists. We can shame the both of you. Also, yes, Nathan doesn't know how to pronounce Leicester. I don't know. Stop
Leicester.
Lester.
Leicester.
I'm just gonna abuse it from now on. It's gonna be Leicester.
Oh
don't care
god,
anymore.
that's brutal.
So
You
painful.
guys, you
So
can't
bad.
shame me into it either. I don't
You should say it in a bad Minnesota accent as well, like the
Leicester.
Oh, so
no.
rough.
So
Look, I
bad.
don't know how to pronounce no Leicester. Sounds
Oh.
like Lake Esther. There are no boats and no fish in that lake. There you go. I did that live on air and I've shamed everyone in the nearby radius.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, we're not doing this anymore. I'm pretty sure my wife's going to come over and yell at me later for that and embarrassing everybody in public, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, why don't we talk about something else like guard, and then we can do plugs, and then we can do questions.
Guard.
Look, we're going to talk about it. It'll be
Yeah.
great. Oh, Nathan pronounced Edinburgh. I can do that one. I don't care.
Keith Davis says, I'm a worse person having heard that.
Thanks,
Don't worry, Keith. It's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about guard now that I've been distracted by chat repeatedly like some kind of squirrel who's found a shiny thing.
Yeah, focus.
It's such a pretty book.
It is a pretty book.
Mine just arrived from UPS today. So I have to go get it in a little bit and bring it up here.
Yeah, I've been
lost in the post for so long.
I will say, when I was doing stats this weekend, one of the things I noticed, there was an event done in Mexico that actually used the new book for a GT. 32 people.
That's awesome.
And the book came out on Friday. So they're like, yeah, you can use it on Saturday. And it definitely included unreleased models that were being proxied.
It's mostly cool that there was a 32-person event in Mexico.
Hell yeah.
I do love that. Yeah. Every time I see like the list of events and there's like places I don't necessarily expect or cities I don't expect, I'm always kind of excited to see how that goes. That was the most exciting part of writing the Frontline like article series for them, was getting to reach out to all sorts of folks. Like reaching out to the first South African GT organizers was great. That was awesome. They're very proud of that getting run.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with I think it was an event in Peru or Chile. I feel terrible now, but I reached out to them because their stuff wasn't fully up to date in BCP. So I just kind of reached out to the T. I was like, hey, do you know when you're going to have stuff updated? If not, can you send me like a doc with lists or anything like that so I can wrap this up? And he's like, oh yeah, sorry, the venue had no internet, so we couldn't do anything. So all the pairings and whatnot are going to be updated afterwards because we were recording them on paper. Right. And then I did the courteous thing and handed his contact info over to the Frontiers guys because that's exactly the kind of stuff that they want to talk about.
Look, 40K Frontiers is a great podcast that does indeed, as Alex Towson just posted in chat and didn't let us do it, someone who does a podcast interviewing people from wonderful parts of the planet that we don't usually hear about. Go listen to 40K Frontiers on a network that delivers it, I guess.
And if I remember correctly, they most recently had an interview with the illustrious Steve Joel of Steve Joel's Wonderful World of 40K.
Whose show, 40K Game Changers, I also enjoy quite a bit, just to be totally honest.
Nathan, I'm going to send you Hydar's name. You have to try to pronounce it. This is the last one of these we're going to do.
You're going to send it to me on Discord?
Yeah.
How do you want me to pronounce it? Do you want me to pronounce it?
I want just like your unadulterated first attempt.
There are so many letters that shouldn't exist. What is the P that's not a P?
Read
All
it.
Right.
Say it.
Hadar Poor Stefansson.
All right. That wasn't the worst.
He's actually not that far off.
I think Hadar would disagree, but I think that
Hadar,
was a good effort.
For someone who has
Hadar
never been to
do,
Iceland, he's not far off.
Yeah. That's
so
fair.
Hadar, what I want you to do is to send me. Oh, that's Thor. Thank you, Hadar. So Hadar, what I want you to do is to send me a audio clip, and we'll play it in the next show somehow. Or we'll
there you go. That'll be the cold open of the next show.
That'll be the
Hadar saying his own name.
Yeah. We'll play it as the cold open for next week's episode. It'll be great.
Just Thor.
If anybody else wants to make me do a terrible job pronouncing things, sure, send it to the show and I'll do my best.
If you can put it in the Discord show questions, you might get it in this episode. Go quickly.
It's true. You probably will, because I'll probably be reading that effing P or yes. That's now your nickname in our Discord, Hadar. Congratulations. Yeah. Anthony, go change it.
Is Hyder in there?
I don't think so. He hates us.
God damn it, Hyder. We even met you and everything.
All right, Anthony, you can't escape anymore. The book.
Fuck.
Somebody asked to show
He's trying. He's trying so hard.
Somebody asked to see the back of it as well. Can you want to show us the back of that book? Like in a little... Ooh, look at that Rogel Dorn.
It would have been way funnier if Curie just spun around in his chair. He was like, "Yeah, no problem."
I just got pinged like twice for saying I would pronounce things during the question section. That was a
Excellent.
mistake.
Good job, folks. Go bother Nathan and show questions.
It's great.
All right.
So what do you
Guard.
think on first pass of the book, Jeremy? And then I'll say what I think of the book on first pass. And
I'm going to say this right now. All of my assessments are based on the assumption that everything in the data slate for guard goes away.
That's fair.
Maybe they keep armor of contempt on their vehicles. Maybe. But I don't think that even that is necessary for how good some of the data sheets and how good some of the army rules are now.
Mm-hmm. I think the only thing I can envision staying, and like part of my assessment is like a little colored by my assumption that Armor of Contempt will stay, but I've been playing practice games as if Armor of Contempt and all the other stuff from the data slate is removed.
Yeah, and that's what, because I'm one of the ones that's often consulted for the Ontario TO groups, and they're just like, how do you want to deal with this? Because people want to play the new book. And I was like, well, GW hasn't ruled on it. GW hasn't made any comments. The best that we have is when they released the last data slate, they said that the codex would supersede it, but we don't know how much of that. So the guidance that I've been giving, at least for the locals, is just assume the data slate doesn't exist for guard. They take the indirect penalty. They don't have any bonuses or anything. And if the book stands up on its own, great. If it doesn't, then we hope that GW addresses that. But like my initial assessment from reading through it and watching a couple practice games is the book is very strong. It has, I mean, it's a gunline army. That has never really changed about guard. Yes, they have their ponies now, which are really strong, but they're a countercharge and maybe a little bit of a fast threat every now and then. But because they're cavalry, they suffer from a lot of the penalties that a lot of other things do. So you can't hide them effectively without really hindering how far you can threat with them.
Yep. I think I agree too. Like there are some melee elements in the book, but one of them doesn't have like a ton of AP, which is Bulgrin. And then the other one dies if somebody sneezes at it, which is Rough Riders. Like they're both reasonably good melee units, but I don't think either of them is about to set the world on fire, like the meta on fire, because ponies can't go through buildings, which is going to make them a little bit harder to maneuver, but they're a great countercharge unit. But I have a feeling that people are going to be taking a lot more Sentinels, which is something we can talk about a little bit later. Like my initial assessment of the book is that the book is very good. I don't think it's Votan good, although I think their matchup into Votan is okay. I think their matchup into stuff outside of Votan might not be as good, but I think I'll wait to try some more practice games into various things to see kind of how that ends up working out, because there are some units in the book that are just so good. Like my top 3 units in the book are definitely similar to most people's, which is Kasserkin, the Lord Solar, and then Lehman Russ battle tanks are probably like my top 3 units in the book, which I think is a pretty commonly shared opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. So team event this weekend, we got to talking, and some of you know him, others know him by reputation. But Devin Swan was talking to us and preaching the gospel of 18 Sentinels. And we did the math on it, and it's 9 scout, 9 armored, and you just take a death strike, deploy your Sentinels 9 inches away from your opponent's table ledge, walk into their deployment zone, place a death strike, and charge. And say good luck cleaning 9. I don't care if I'm going to hit all of my Sentinels at the same time with this warhead. You're dying.
What happens when you go second? What are you supposed to do then?
You die.
Like
actually, no, it's not true. You redeploy 2 units of Sentinels back onto your front line and just sacrifice 1 unit of them.
The redeploy is 3 units or just 2?
It is 3, but yeah, I guess you could redeploy all 3 of them. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of their benefits is that they're on 80mm bases now. So that unit of sentinels now takes up like a lot of real estate. And
It's a
so
it's a big thing.
Yeah, they actually
sentinels
fit on the
suddenly
82. Like I don't know what people are going to do with the old Sentinels when they try to put them on 80s because they're going to look comical.
do you
I
have an
don't
old
have an
sentinel?
old Sentinel sitting here, unfortunately.
God. Well, I think I shared an image previously, and I'll grab it later if I want to share an image on screen of a new and an old sentinel next to each other. They're quite a bit larger, but 80 millimeter bases and 3 of them lets them block like a whole chunk of the board from you moving
Mhm.
through it. Like 3 scout sentinels will just eat up with their infiltrate ability. They'll just eat up a lot of real estate, so you
Yeah.
won't be able to do anything about them.
Well, the big thing with Sentinels in particular, like 18 is a silly skew list. We acknowledge this, but we figured it'd be a hilarious teams list in 8-man teams. But one of the things with Sentinels is that they have both the platoon and they have the platoon and core, if I remember correctly, which means that you can actually buff them with everything.
Yep. I think the other thing to remember is that 18 Sentinels is only 750 points.
Yeah.
Like-
A bit more than that because you're running 9 heavy, 9 and 8 light. So
fair, yeah.
but
Math gets a little bit different.
It is very close to that, and then you still have 1,200 points of trash to fill out your list with.
Or 1,200 points of good units. Like you can still fit 3 units of Kasserkin in there.
I hate guard.
You could probably take another 6 to 7 Lehman Russes.
Yeah, that'd be a lot, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you get all the HQs in if you've put 6 Lehman Russes in there, but you could. There's definitely like a whole realm of like ideas that I've been hearing though. From like one side, I get a lot of skew talk from like people who run teams events mostly, because you could match 18 Sentinels and then like some Lehman Russes into some poor fool who can't do anything about it. Because those Sentinels are pretty durable. The armored Sentinels have a 3-up save and then also have all is dust for ranged attacks.
I mean, if
So
you're
it's not like they're
if you're gonna skew, you take 3 death strikes and do that, right?
Yes.
sure.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, maybe not even bother with Lehman Russes. Just take 3 death strikes, pin your
No.
opponent, and then just be a terrifying person. Yeah. Or you play like 12 Lehman Russ battle tanks and then make your opponent chew through 12 times 13 wounds of T8 2-up saved armor. And you can put all
no.
this. You can.
Sorry, I wasn't talking to you. I got distracted by chat like a puppy with a coin.
Oh, Vic Vijay asked, "You guys think post nerf Wotan is stronger than Guard for singles?" I think they
I
have
do
more good matchups than Guard does.
Nope,
You don't think so?
I don't think
You
so.
don't. You don't think that? I think did Wotan not have a better matchup into stuff like Harlequins? I don't think Guard's matchup into Harlequins is super duper great.
Guard invalidates all 3 Eldari factions by existing if they take the right amount of mortars.
Yeah, but hitting on 6s with mortars?
5s at worst, right?
Indirect is a ballistic skill penalty.
It's 6s.
Yeah, but
because
you
of
get
the indirect.
but you get +1 to hit from the order,
Okay, so yeah, and then -1, so you're hitting on 5s.
right?
Yep.
You just
No
flat
rerolls in the event.
kill like every elf in the zip code. You're like, all my hits wound. Sorry.
That's true.
That's actually very fair. And while the heavy weapon mortar teams did go up 5 points, they're still extremely efficient because they also went to strength.
no!
They also went to strength 5.
Yeah. So
Which
now they're
gets them
strength
to
6
when
Creed.
Ursula is ordering them,
Yes.
which is
Yep.
really, really fucking bad if you want to be an elf boy. You just like Guard can just build to casually for like by filling out their troop slots and 106 or 65 points invalidate the Eldari faction, which seems bad if you're an elf player. And then if you fill the rest of the points out with like Lehman Russes, you invalidate the knight keywords while you're at it.
You definitely don't even need the Lehman Russes to do the night keywords. You can just do it with Kasserkin.
Yeah, well, I'm saying you take 2 Kasserkin and the rest is Russ, right? And at that point, you
Mhm.
have 60 idiots, 9 mortars, X amount of rust. Kasserkin, your scoring and secondaries are much better than leagues.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is that like guard secondaries didn't change. Guard secondaries were really good
Yeah.
The problem with most guard armies is you would just get tabled before you could score your 45 on the bottom.
Yeah, now they table you instead.
Exactly.
Yeah, like if Votan puts out both fortresses at the same time, they'll lose both in the same turn.
Yeah, because it's the other big thing with guard is, you have, example, a unit of Kasserkin with this with the strat support, and then say 4 Lehman Russ is shooting at a tank at a land fort, and it's gone.
I think the Kasserkin split shooting into both, if you can land that, plus like a tank each kills both forts.
So I am presuming that the Kasserkin strat gets reworded so that it is proper.
It isn't right now.
I know. And yes, Charles, guard definitely seem to counter a lot of team and play when you can just have an order that denies deep strikes within 12 inches.
Yeah.
You just start on the table, like, I guess, in that situation, but then you're open to getting just mauled by Kasserkin.
Mauled by Kasserkin, mauled by mortars, because +1 save doesn't matter when you have a demon save.
It's true.
You just get mauled. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that list, that was the brigade that I had started to put together and mess with
the 15 mortars. Yeah,
is just nuts. Like in singles, that's absolutely what I would play if I was going to play guard, and it seems great in teams too. It's bananas. Like, you have an order that's just like fuck demons and GSC and anything that wants to deep strike. Like,
no,
I guess the only problem with that is that you can only be affected by one order at a time, so you kind of have to make that the decision that you're going to make, which maybe
one infantry unit gets it, and then you just move on.
Yeah, like you have 3 infantry units that screen your outer, and then everything on the inside takes the orders that it actually needs to kill you.
Yeah. Those 3 things can all get it from the same dude because your order is a bubble, so it doesn't even matter.
6 inches, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I was reading something from chat. There's a lot of people
talking. We're all reading chat right now.
We're all looking at chat to see who's yelling in it at this point.
I'm pretty sure that the guard is going to be insane if their pilots aren't like, I really like my basilisks. And there's probably going to be a bunch of that.
There's going to be a lot of that.
There's going to be a lot of that, but thankfully you can't accidentally take 9 of them anymore.
You can't.
That's true.
I think there will be a lot of people who don't want to play the 15 mortar list, and I think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, you don't need 15. You could just take 9 and take the fucking infantry that can transhuman in the middle slots and prevent people from stealing your objectives.
It's true.
Guard is definitely better in singles, I think, than Votan will be. It's just less. It's slightly less free than Votan is, where you can just trundle into the middle on accident and just vomit damage at people and then not die to the recourse.
All your shit will die to the recourse if you're not careful at all with your guard units, I think, is the only downside for it.
Unless you just kill them, in which case it doesn't matter. But yes.
So you could be cursed like me, Anthony. I think, have you watched any of my guard games so far? I know Jeremy has. Jeremy has watched my guard games and watched an entire shooting phase kill 1 model.
Yep. But that won't happen anymore.
Oh, it's true. It might not. I definitely did kill 2 armigers in my first kill, my first shooting phase with my first game with the army. Yeah. And then also watch 2 other armigers go down to bottom bracket and a big knight go down to middle bracket.
I 1000% agree with this. I haven't played a long time, but I don't see a world where they make this book not this.
I mean, you basically are describing most armies that are pure gun lines. Like, this also describes Tau.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, Tau are just faster.
If Tau didn't have planes, I wouldn't hate them. But for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I think Tau without Sun Sharks is actually fine.
Maybe.
I
think that army is just as untouchable with multiple Riptides doing the leap backsies.
Well, no, they don't have no line of sight shooting, right? So it's not actually free. They have.
Is it no line of sight if all of my stuff just pops back behind a ruin?
Yeah, because they need the initial sight line, right? If you're hidden, they can't shoot.
I mean,
you.
They could always go back to air bursts.
They could, but it's way less good.
It is way less good. It's also way more expensive.
Yeah.
I will say that I agree generally with the sentiment that when gunline armies are good, the game overall is worse because the game is less interactive.
Yeah.
I do think like that's a thing.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's my biggest problem is always with the indirect. Like Anthony was pointing out, like it is a valid point. Like even hitting on 5s with the order, and especially since you can still give them rerolls.
Oh yeah,
You still have Hammer of the Emperor or whatever it's called now, Born Soldiers. So that you don't care because it's volume. And this is one of the things like we saw at the GT last weekend. We had friend of the show, Zach, running the old guard book, and he had 16 mortars in that list. And it was just a matter of some armies he played into Sisters, and the Sisters player, Chris, who is captain of Team Canada, a very good player, was just like, I guess I die now.
Guess I'm dead.
Like he would place a unit of Battle Sisters in cover behind a ruin. Now, mind you, he wasn't taking the penalty, but he also wasn't. He was sitting in dense, so whatever. He was sitting on 5s, but just the auto wounding 6s was enough to lift him.
Yeah.
Hammer
is them on 2s.
Now they will.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
You're just gonna volume that Sisters player and hope that they can, like, the 2-ups probably, but you're gonna volume it. You're just gonna be like, here are 3d6 of dice each turn on that unit, and I'm just gonna roll dice at it until it all goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Those Repenture better never leave a transport and then not be in combat with something or multiple things.
I'm now very much seeing Anthony's point of them just validating most Eldari.
Yeah, Eldari Knights. That's 5 factions just gone, and then into power armor. Like, it's not great. Like, Caster can do terrible things to them. They do terrible things to everything.
Because Caster can get to what, AP4 now?
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to dump a bunch of CP to get them to 4.
But the thing is that, well,
it's
combine that
if you
with
want to do the other strat.
You're
sure. Yes, if you would like to do other things, then you need more points. But to get them to AP whatever costs 1.
Yes, 1 CP. I just mean if you're like looking to peak efficiency that Casterkin unit, you're adding an extra CP on top, so it's 3 CP.
Yeah, it'd be crazy if you guys had like a way to generate CP and a CP refund, and your relics and warlord traits were only like pretty good and CP saving in and of themselves. So you started on like 2, but then there was like a guy.
There are like multiple relics and warlord traits that are good in that book.
Yeah, right, but they're not like insane. So you start with 2 or 3, and then like. You have this guy that's like, hey, did you pick the right secondaries? Good job, hero. 1 more CP.
Yeah.
And then...
I think actually Nick has the best comparison, which is that a Casterkin are a unit of 3 Zoans smiting you and then shooting you at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Except they're smiting 2 units right now.
Yep, they're smiting 2 units at the same time. Which I think is the major change that needs to be made to Casterkin is you need to take overcharge las cells and make it just 1 unit.
Not just 1 unit, but just make it so that the maximum output is 6 mortals. So if you can do 4 to one and 2 to another, if you split fire, sure, go right ahead. But the current wording where it's a max of 6 to each target unit is the big problem.
I think it should be the Necron strat.
Should be what?
The Necron strat, where it's capped at 3.
I could see that change working as well.
They can proc it on 5s to hit. It's fucking nonsense. Like, what are we
5s
doing?
to hit with full rerolls, yeah.
Like, what is happening right now? Who wrote this? They're like 6s to wound. Wink. Like,
just 1 CP. It's probably you're paying at least 2 CP on that unit per time you want to trigger it.
Yeah. Stupid.
Because they need to be. You want them to be born soldiers, and you want to trigger the 5s for auto 6s to wound.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Man, I need to stop responding to chat. It's just right in front of me, and people are like chatting in it, and I'm like, God damn it, chat! It's 2 CP.
Yeah.
No, there are some changes that need to be made to the card book.
But the thing is that they're all easy changes to make, and they're ones that are visible. So they're ones that GW can very easily turn that knob on.
True.
I mean, I don't know what they're supposed to do about the mortar situation.
I mean, sure, Eldari struggle, but most other armies don't care.
I mean, I'm not thrilled about taking 15 D6 shots directly into my trash units.
Stop taking trash units.
Don't.
Let me just hold my objectives with.
I don't know. Put
What?
a rhino on it. Put a rhino on it. Yeah.
Even the rhino would probably die.
The rhino gets fucked too, dude.
It's true. It's got, well, I mean, if they take away, because they don't have AP unless you put take aim on them, I guess.
Yeah, but the AP would go away again, anyways, because
And then the AP goes away anyways, because well, yeah, but if you don't put the AP on it, then that Rhino's on like a 2-up.
No, it'll take 2
no,
ups.
it's just
The Rhino
AP,
actually
it's just
be
an AP
okay.
change.
Yeah. The Rhino would be fine.
Mm-hmm. It'd take a lot of mortars to pop that Rhino.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that though, right? You would be like, what's not in cover right this second? Fuck that thing.
All right. We've talked about guard being terrifying. I still have to find some sweatpants to put on my head to send to Danny because I was wrong. That's Danny of Grim After Dark fame for folks, so that I explain myself. Because he said,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he said that if it is pants on head, and I agreed to this bet that I would wear a pair of pants on my head. It will be soon, but not right now. Why don't we transition into questions? What do you want, Anthony? Tony, yes. Yes, I said Tony. Our cats are going to do those mortals. It is true. They are going to do mortals against the units that Anthony cares about.
Yeah, because the units I care about are in the front. They have to do things. When we just stare at guard all game with their better secondaries while they kill my trash with mortars, I'm just gonna.
Can I share the other thing that I just absolutely love about our Discord before we talk about? Actually, might as well do the plugs real quick, and I can share the image while I do this.
There you go.
I'm gonna go find the image first because.
All right. Well, while Nathan's doing that, I'll plug the sites and web and links and all of that. So if you're watching us right now, you know exactly where you can find us. Twitch.com/statcheck40k, youtube.com/statcheck. If you want to check out the website that we were showing earlier, which is the metadata dashboard, head on over to stat-check.com/the-meta. If you like the stuff that we're doing and would like to support us in other ways and hang out in the Discord where this shenanigans doesn't ever really stop, then head on over to patreon.com/statcheck. I believe it's $5 a month for Discord access. I can't actually remember. I set up the tiers a long time ago.
$5 US for the Discord access and access to all of our bonus content. There are 2 other tiers if you choose to be part of our more for nothing tier, which is the $6.90 tier. Or if you one day want to watch Anthony just be sad, there's the $15 a month tier. As soon as my work stops murdering me, we'll do that. And then if you join our Discord, you can also participate in hilarious shit like this.
Oh, fuck.
So this is a jersey where we have Turbo's V8s. An offhanded remark one time calling Anthony's fans his V8s has spawned a jersey.
It's so much more beautiful in person.
It is so beautiful.
Direct. It's so aggressive.
For podcast listeners, I'm going to describe this for you. In case you were unaware, there was a movie called Turbo where there was a snail. And the snail from the movie poster has Anthony's face on top of it. And it says Turbo's V8 on a Warhammer 40k Teams jersey.
So beautiful.
Press, if you do regret it, we might be able to just make more merch of it for funsies. We'll just get the design from the person who made it. And we'll figure it out. We're also going to have actual stat check jerseys for order at a certain point on the Discord, and Discord will get first dibs essentially on the merch as we produce it. There are dice that are now prototyped that we have made.
They are, so the dice, I will say right now, are fully made. We are waiting on, because we got them made with a bunch of other dice for my local game store. I think it was a batch of like 20,000 dice. The stat check, we've got 2,000 dice, 1,000 white, 1,000 black. We will hopefully start selling them soon, but we do need to I want to make sure that we actually have them before we start selling them.
Yeah,
and
so we'll have them by LVO then. We might have them by LVO.
We should have them by LVO because shipping, they are being shipped via a actual ship because well, right now shipping things by plane is expensive. But we should hopefully have them by LVO, so we can probably do some bulk deals for people who are traveling and want to bring home, a bunch of dice. But we'll announce more, and we'll talk in the Discord once we get those. As always, patrons have first dibs on them. And yeah, so going into
Chris is now going to send me that original photoshopped image so that we can produce merch of that Turbo's V8s. We'll put a credit at the bottom as well. And then at some point we'll have jerseys, and then we'll also have objective markers, which are also in the works for people
We should
who
put it
want
on something nonsensical, like a headband, or like a hat.
We could do a headband or a hat. We'll figure it out. We'll put that image on some kind of merch so that everybody can own and be a member of Turbo's V8s. On that note, I've maximally embarrassed Anthony because I'm about to get embarrassed a lot in return. While Jeremy gets to sit here and get away scot-free, but that's fine. We'll do questions. Oh boy.
Jonathan Slay Johnson wants to know, what is the most fun army you have played competitively this year?
Harlequins is the most fun I've personally had. Although I've also enjoyed the Mortal Wound bomb pre-Leviathan nerf. That was a lot of fun, where you had 3 Zoanthrope units, a Maliceptor, and 2 Harpies. That was kind of amusing.
Harlequins was up there. Harlequins was great because it was cathartic. Like, I would play as Harlequins, and I would just windmill dunk Custodes and Tau, and it would feel so good that I miss that a lot. But my favorite army, without contest, is my Emperor's Children. I love them.
I would have been disappointed if you had said anything else.
Yeah, my Emperor's Children are my boys through and through. I won the first major as CSM. I am loosely responsible for Vic thinking Abaddon is good. Whoops, sorry, UK. Because he was like, it can't be that impactful. Come on. And I was like, try it. Let me know how you feel afterwards. Yeah, Emperor's Children for sure. I am way happier with them than I have been almost anything the entire time. Even when I play Bile, I'm like, this is fun, but I miss my boys.
So what you're saying is not Tau.
Not Tau. I played Tau once, and it was the worst army.
It was so bad that Anthony begged to have a list change for the Vibe Check League.
Yeah, I was going to either change my list or stop playing. Like, there was no world.
I would just end up playing all of your matches for you.
Yeah, I would have just been like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Sorry, I'm not doing that again.
Another fun thing you can do if you join our Discord is you can, and our Patreon, is you can participate in TTS leagues, like our Vibe Check League.
Yeah.
For 40K that's going on right now.
Is there... Surely you're not actually going to make a flag out of that, right?
Hadar might.
You don't want to underestimate him.
It'll be fine.
I'm going to get that image from Chris, and I'm going to send it to Hadar, and he's going to put it up on the walls for their tournaments. You might become the new Icelandic,
mascot
advertisement.
Just on the jersey now. That's the splash picture on the shoulder.
God, fuck.
Innes has called our Discord very cult-like, and he might not be wrong.
He's really not far off. Yeah, and for myself, favorite army, hands down, my Raven Wing. I kind of had to put them aside because Nephilim made list building for them a lot less fun. But I had a run of, I think it was 5 or 6 GTs where I ran them, and they were a ton of fun. They hit hard, they moved fast. They caught a lot of people off guard with how good they were. And then Nephilim just kind of took away a lot of my fun things.
Fair.
All right. Which of the army boxes would you suggest if a friend was interested in starting competitively?
The
Knight one.
The Knights is a really good one. It's like very close to the competitive Loyalist Knights build, I think. If you
get that. You get that. Well, not even that. You get that, and then you buy 2 boxes. You buy 3 boxes of Armigers. So I think it's like $450 US for that. That gets you a complete Freeblood Lance list. Or you buy 2 of the boxes, and you need to get some weapon sprues, but that'll get you the 2+7 build as well. Yep. The only other one that I would really consider, would be the Custodes one.
2 of those is basically a competitive
I
army.
wouldn't grab 2 of those because it has 15 guard in it, custodian guard in it.
30 custodian guard could be a thing.
That's a list.
know.
Hydar's in chat. Don't be rude.
I'm not being rude. I'm just saying it's not as good a list as it used to be.
That's fair.
True.
Because you can't turn off rerolls and transhuman a 10-man brick every single turn anymore.
He only did that once when we played.
He only needed to do it once.
There's one more
he
of
only could
those
do
that
it
I
once
think is
'cause of Vex.
okay. I'm trying
The
to
other
remember which
ones,
one it is.
the Thousand Suns one is okay, but Magnus, the Admech one is atrocious.
It's terrible.
The Space Marine ones don't even come close to them. I'm trying to remember which one.
Is the
I've
sisters
forgotten.
one okay?
The Sisters one is
The
actually
sisters
not
one is all
terrible.
right. Yeah.
My
'cause
running
it's got
theory is that
Paragons.
the Space Marine ones are just going to have a new supplement in them, and they're just not going to have said anything.
You're not
You're
the only
gonna
one that
open it.
has that theory, so it would be very funny if that proved to be true.
You
They're
just
the
open
only
it,
ones
it's like
with
the
fancy
new Raven
art.
Guard supplement. You're like, what the fuck is this?
It's an Army of Renown. There's just going to be Army of Renown rules
Yeah.
in the boxes.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
The only way to get it will be from the boxes. It'll be great. Best FOMO box.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
haven't heard
announced
anything
one.
about it because they're not play tested. They're all just like Crusher Stampede equivalents for those terrible
Please
factions.
don't put that into the universe, Anthony.
Do not
Oh,
manifest
my
that
goodness.
energy. We do not need that right
The
now.
Raven Guard one
Let's do-
gives Centurions.
Let's do another
four.
question, Jeremy.
All right, next question. Oh god, do you think a list is good regardless of the terrain format, or do you tailor lists for the format you're playing? If so, what adjustments do you make? I think that's almost an
there's a-
entire episode, and we could even go back to last week's episode where Anthony talked Innis through building lists around GW open terrain as opposed to UKTC and WTC.
Yeah.
And the differences that you see there.
Maybe we should just have a bonus episode where we talk about terrain and army list management for them.
The short form answer to that too is that like if an army is good terrain agnostic, that army's too powerful.
This is very true.
If you're just like,
I mean-
I don't care if there's no terrain or tons, whatever.
I think a good example of the terrain question is the Twilight Harlequins army, which is really good on GW terrain, but probably not as good on UKTC terrain, where you can draw lines into those big Harlequin bricks and they just die.
It
Yeah,
does
you can't
kill
hide a
them.
12-man Harlequin brick troop unit on WTC. You just die.
That's why I'm not playing Twilight Harlequins in our Vibe Check League, which is on WTC terrain, because they would just die. As is, I barely beat somebody playing a lot of Flamers and was very sad as I watched all my boats go away. Neither here nor there.
Yep. How do you start learning or becoming more familiar with optimizing fight phase movements and mechanics? Do you just put models on a table and play it out with yourself? Tips or tricks for mastering the fight phase?
Get beat up by a player that's better than you. Coaching. Those are really the only two ways to get better at nuanced shit like that.
Yeah, and I
So-
think the biggest one is on the first side of that is get beat up by a player who's better than you who also will talk you through what you did wrong. Because a lot of
Definitely.
people lack the, or the coaching aspect of it, but a lot of people lack the introspection to be able to look at, oh, I could have moved this thing an extra half inch that way, and that changes everything.
Yep.
So one of the ways you can practice some things, though, in that is just in practice games. Like, go into a practice game being like, I'm going to try to do combat this trick. And that's how I learned some combat tricks, is I was like, I'm going to try pinning a unit so it can't consolidate into one unit by putting 2 units on either side and stuff like that. Like those, or I'm going to try to charge a character so he can't heroic and then use equidistance to get myself out of engagement range during the pile-in move.
Yeah,
Like those are
like-
things you can practice in practice games and just have a goal for some stuff that you want to make sure that you do and guide yourself through some of those things. But
Yeah, and I
also getting beat up by people who are just good at combat is a great way to learn.
I will say that even the most experienced players I know still get caught off guard by the playing around heroic interventions by charging and making yourself equidistant to the character that could heroic and the unit that you wanted to fight, and they're just piling away from the character.
Yeah.
And the opponent just goes, "Yeah, I'm going to activate the character." No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Mm,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's
You can
also a
fight
great
me
way
next turn.
to learn tricks is to have somebody do that to you and then you never forget it ever again.
This is very
I-
true.
One person will do it to you and then you'll be like, I see now how this works in real life and I have just learned. Also, I just want to bring this up because it amuses me.
Haidar, I'm up for it if you can get the 5th best Custodes player in Iceland to do it with me. Speaking of really niche jokes that 3 people will get, but 1 person will get very upset about. Anyway.
Next question.
All right. This is a question for Anthony because we are Innisless. Now that many countries, and kind of for me actually, now that many countries are finalizing their 8 for WTC, what's the process of allocating armies to each of them to practice and study?
We wait.
Yeah.
That's what we do right now. We wait.
Because things are going to change in the next 6 months. Yeah. And from my perspective as coach for Canada, I'm more focusing as we start to narrow down our things on people that can play multiple factions or who can hop very quickly. Because while faction experts are very useful, right now things are in so much flux and we ran into this problem last year as Canada, where we didn't have a player who could switch factions when we recognized that we had 2 gaps in our army in our armies. We were like, we need a Necron player. We need we need 1 or 2 Knight players. We don't have anyone who can do these.
Seems bad.
We're running with what we have.
Yeah, that was good enough for 9th.
Also, hello, Adam Camilleri.
I'm not unhappy with how it worked out in the end.
Yeah,
but we can always do better. Anthony,
we're just waiting. Like we have a handful of like known starters for us at this point, but for a lot of us, our faction flexibility is so wide that it's like not really a thing we're super worried about. In certain instances it matters, right? Like of all the like Team USA involved people at this point, of which there are a fucking ton, speaking as the person who has to manage them, like I'm still the only primary CSM player, like of all 20 something of us, just me. So like, can I play a whole bunch of things? Sure. But does that actually matter? Because no one else is going to play the thing that I play if it's good? No. So if CSM is even vaguely functional and worth taking in a roster of 8, I'll be playing that, right? So that narrows our selection a bit. But it just depends. Like if we end up in a situation where like we get to the last list and like, you know, we're up to Nick and the last list is something real aggressive, we're like, something here is gone wrong. If we're going to try and make Nick run at people, that just doesn't seem like a thing we should be doing.
I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah, I mean, he'll figure it out. That's the Nick special, right? That's the brown magic, baby. But he is God's gift. I don't understand this, and I've now seen it happen in person. He's just like, yeah, I don't know, I'll do some stuff over there, and that'll figure it out. And he's right. He's right every time. Sometimes what do some stuff and figure it out is he'll just go 20 for 22 on 4-ups. Sorry, Kelling at Motor City Mayhem. And like that's his solution. He was true. He was like, I messed up, and now the dice will save me, and then they do. So, and then sometimes he holds white scars, but that's its own, story.
All right. Yeah. So basically, a lot of it is waiting. A lot of it is making sure people are flexible enough that they can hop quickly, because that's probably what's going to be needed again this year, especially if we end up in YOLO white scars, especially if we find ourselves in the mysterious world of 10th.
Yeah. Which I don't think
there's the possibility that happens.
There's a distinct possibility. It's not likely, but it's always a possibility. Our Scottish conscience asks us, I missed last week's show. Can you recap it for me, please? Anthony gave Innes a very good lesson on how U.S. Open terrain works and what you need to be worried about and how you build around that. I think that was the biggest takeaway from the last episode.
That's fair.
This is a good one. How do you guys set goals for performance at events if you're taking an army that's on the lower end of win rates, such as Marines? Do you focus on trying to hit a number of wins, just go have fun and don't care about outcomes, or play to win the event?
I don't set goals for events. Ever. Haven't since I started. It's just not a thing I do. I play only the game in front of me. Ever. I am never once been concerned about where it ends up at. Looking past the game that's in front of you is a really good way to lose the game that's in front of you. I have had people, when I was on the come up and folks had no fucking clue who I was and didn't have a reason to yet, look past the game into me and die. And I've seen that happen a million times now. So I refuse to do that. So I don't really set goals going into events like that. It's more about like my personal performance, and a lot of that is game to game, and I can't know that before the event.
Yeah.
Uh,
For me,
Go ahead,
because I
Jeremy.
mean, like I mentioned earlier, I was playing Dark Angels, my Raven Wing, for 5 or 6 GTs, and I switched to them because I was bored. I wanted to play something different. Dark Angels weren't in the best spot, but I found a list that worked fairly well. I think I averaged 4-1. I usually would drop a game an event, maybe 2 at most. And the goal was just to have fun with that. I was going to events, I was traveling, but really at the end of it, I wasn't going there to win. I was going there because I was hanging out with friends and I was rolling dice. If you can not set expectations like Anthony was talking, but you also need to be careful that you are accepting what possibilities are coming. That you don't that you are okay with going 3-3 at a 6-round event.
Yep.
That you are okay with going
Right.
4-2 at an event when you usually go 5-1, or when you usually win events.
I
Getting short
think the
jokes
thing
in
is
chat.
like not to set you up for a goal that leads to disappointment. Like if you're going to set yourself a goal, don't set yourself the goal that you are going to win an event necessarily, especially if you're at the lower end of a win rate for factions.
Right.
Like that can be a goal for some people because some people win a lot of events like Innis or Anthony. Like those are people who can set those kind of like goals.
Common misconception: I don't actually win a lot of events.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Fine. Just
No,
Innis.
like
but I
jokes
agree
aside,
with you.
like a lot of people are like, you win stuff all the time. It's just not true. Like in the year that I got Best in Faction Drakari, and even to now, I just don't win like anything larger than a GT. And like winning a GT is still like an impressive accomplishment, but I've won 1 or 2 majors in Salt City and the one I won with Harlequins. And in general, I don't really win stuff. I usually just place high and end up in a podium.
Like you have, because I'm pulling up your stats because it's fun.
Yeah.
You won 3 events of the 9 GT Plus events that you went to this year, but you also had single-digit placings at 7 of those 9 place events.
Right. Yep.
The only 2 that where you went 4-2 was Motor City with Tyranids and Cherokee Open with Drakari.
Yeah. Yep.
So like you are a 5-1 player.
Yeah. A thing Sean pointed out many, many moons on Adam Camilleri's show, which stuck with me very much so when I was on my come up, is that no one in 40K averages being undefeated. The first time you take that first fucking loss, even if you grind it down for forever and you go undefeated the rest of the season, you got a fucking smudge in your L column and you'll never replace that. So
And
nailed it.
Violet and in once.
Yeah. I mean, like that thing has been true for ages. Like I literally, even last season, never won. Like I wasn't winning events even after I'd picked up Drakari and started winning a bunch until Mags gave me shit until I did. And shout out to Maglin, the mysterious British man who lives in the Netherlands. But yeah, it's a real thing. I don't often win events. I just perform well at them consistently, and that's all I'm concerned with as a player.
And really, it's that consistent performance that matters to you more than anything else. And that consistent performance is what matters to me as well. Like I recognize I'm an X1, X2 player. Can I push myself higher than that? Sure. Sometimes I do better than that, but I consistently that's the low end is X and 2 of what I do until I ran into Chris at War Masters.
Right.
And I think that's fair. I think it's the only point that I was trying to make is like to set yourself a goal that doesn't lead to disappointment, because only one person can win an event. And setting yourself a goal to just do well, like break 500, is like an achievable goal that won't make you feel bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Like my goal at every event isn't a performance goal. It's an enjoyment goal. If I'm not having fun, it's not a successful event. If my opponents are not having fun, it's not a successful event. Like team event that I went this past weekend, I went there with the goal to score 100 points because I was running Voten and I knew that they're broken. Didn't score it, scored only 80. But it was still one of those moments where like every single game, I made a point of making sure that my opponent was enjoying the game, was learning something, was getting something out of this aside from just dice being thrown.
I think there's a good philosophy that I like try my best at most of the time is that a lot of the time, this is maybe partially because I'm not going to win a lot of majors, but at the end of the day, I'd love to win more sportsmanship awards than I would love to win first place or best overall trophies. And like, that's not always going to be achievable. Sometimes you have a bad day and you play poorly, or you have a bad day and you treat your opponent poorly. And it's good to go into games, though, with the goal that you are going to give your opponent the best game that you can, given the circumstances that you're in at any moment. And like, I feel like the game would definitely be better if more people took that goal into events. Like, I think broadly.
Yeah. All right. The year is 2025. Stephen Box is Emperor of all 40K. What 2 factions do you pick to play for the rest of eternity?
Chaos and Forces of the Hive Mind. Nope, Chaos and Eldari.
I was going to say, I was surprised you didn't say Chaos and Space Marines, because then you would be able to play your Blood Angels and everything else.
I would sacrifice my Blood Angels to have access to Harlequins and Drakari.
That's fair. I don't know. Imperium.
Oh, rude.
Imperium and Eldari probably, because I'd also prefer to play Drakari. I'm sorry to my Tyranids, but I'll ditch you for that sweet Harlequin action and Drakari action later on in life.
Yeah. Does someone want to explain some context for that?
All right. An email went out to, I'm assuming, Vanguard Tactics mailing list that was complaining about the state of 40K, namely poking fun at the fact that there were a few people that were running very similar, or if not identical, lists at the Leicester GT. Something that happens at every GT, I might add. Every single super major, you're going to have a few people that are running identical lists, because one of the things that happens with this game is we talk to each other and we converge on solutions to the meta. So it's not unusual to see a few carbon copy lists at any particular event. But they took issue with this and kind of pointed out very wrongly that maybe the way that the ranking systems for the UKTC and ITC should be changed, so that you lock in your factions at the beginning of the year. You choose 2 or 3 factions, and those are the only ones that you can accumulate points for. You can play the other ones if you want. They're just not going to count towards your rankings. And needless to say, we just eviscerated that in our Discord earlier today, because it was such a dumb idea.
I'm going to steal Anthony's suggestion now, because I'm going to use it. Is that the idea that you need to be some kind of Nerdstradamus at the beginning of an edition is dumb. And like, nobody can predict anything. And anybody who says they can predict the future of the game more than like the week in front of them, like maybe just the next few weeks in front of them, and like the performance of factions, is wrong. Like, nobody is the oracle. Like, nobody's going to be able to perfectly predict where things are going to go or how things are going to go. Nobody was in the position to predict that Necrons were going to be winning a bunch of events when they were, and that's kind of slowed down a bit. But nobody predicted that. Like, that wasn't a thing that people predicted.
Yeah.
And you definitely wouldn't have known that at the beginning of the edition, when GW said that like there were going to be a bunch of core restrictions, rerolls were going to be locked to a bunch of stuff, and the game looked different than it does now.
Yeah.
And
no one could have predicted that Tau would be good, Harlequins would be good. Like, if LVO ends and February 7th, you have a deadline of February 7th to choose which factions you're going to lock in for the year, people would be like, I'm going to play Custodes, I'm going to play Drakari.
Mm-hmm.
And then a month later, Tau's going to come out, and then Harlequin's going to come out a month later, and you are just going to be invalidated.
Yep.
And I don't think we want to spend too much time on it, but it's just like the idea behind it is garbage. Net listing isn't bad, just do it. Like, if somebody invents the wheel, don't reinvent it just because you want to be unique. Like, just use what works. All other like tabletop wargaming things do this, tabletop card games do this, online games do this with best builds. The idea that using something that is established to be efficient is wrong is such a dumb thing, and I hate it.
Yeah. I think in general, people try and give themselves bonus snowflake points after the fact, but unfortunately, that doesn't happen on the scoreboard. So, too bad.
Yeah.
Bitch.
good friend of the show, Adam Camilleri, does raise a really good point. I do agree with this. The only thing I want to see the ITC do is get UK out of the European rankings. The sheer power of the UKTC invalidates a lot of other efforts in Greater Europe.
Yeah, that's fair.
And also, they voted to leave.
True.
Did they? They sort of did, and then they didn't, and then they
we don't
went
want to
back
talk
on it.
about UK politics.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
Also,
All right.
Alex had a good point before we totally leave this topic. Don't net list, but also join my coaching service and I'll help you with your list.
Well, he helps you in person, so it's not a net list.
Oh, fair. Sometimes they're in person. The academy stuff's online, I think, as well, right?
I'm really reaching here, man. What he said
Okay.
was real fucking stupid, and I'm doing my best to cover the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Nathan.
Let's keep going.
Have you done any testing on expert bombardiers? And
No,
how many
because
units in the list?
No, because Born Soldiers is fucking dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, expert bombardiers gives you +1 to hit when an artillery model makes a shot that is within 12 inches and visible to either a sentinel or a voxcaster unit, as opposed to Born Soldiers, which makes a 6 to hit auto wound and count as a 6 to wound, which has a few other fun interactions.
Yep. And I'm not saying, I think one of the worst things about this book is that Born Soldiers is so good that it limits all of the, and I'm going to start gesturing wildly because Cliff Colt told me to, is that Born Soldiers is so good and the other traits are fine, but they're just not as good as Born Soldiers. So most of what you're going to see is Born Soldiers out of the guard book. There's some traits that are pretty good, but mostly you're going to see them on Kasserkin because Kasserkin get a bonus one for free for some reason that they didn't need. So they can get ignore cover for units within 18 inches, which is dynamite.
Ignore heavy penalty.
Ignore heavy penalty. You can give them mechanized so they can jump out of transports after the transport is moved. So you can go 14 inches if you're inside of the Scion transport, whose name I just forgot, and then pop out.
Taurox, that ugly piece
Taurox.
of shit.
Yeah. And then Games Workshop totally forgot that Scions exist at all and gave them nothing, basically. So Scions are real bad right now. How many units in a list should be geared towards it if you take expert bombardiers? If you're taking bombardiers, you're gearing your whole list towards it. You might as well.
Yeah, you're taking
gear
nothing
your
but
whole
artillery.
list. Take a maximum number of units that can go spot, take a bunch of scout sentinels, and then smack the crap out of your opponent with artillery. Take the 15 mortars that Anthony talked about, and then use expert spotters to help you out with it. Expert bombardiers. Yep, do all that. I do actually, to talk to Cental via Twitch, I do hope Scions get something because they are definitely they wholesale tossed Scions into the garbage in this book, and I think it's unfair.
I hope they get something, and I hope what the thing they get is Legends.
Oh. You know, if they did get Legends, that would be better than what they got in the guard book, because what they got in the guard book was your army just sucks. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. What are some T-Sons and Flamers rules folks are likely to misplay or get wrong to their advantage?
Keep an eye on their Cabal points.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one.
People just invent costs for things for those constantly.
Don't be afraid to ask. Can I see the page in your codex where it says that you can double cast for 4 Cabal points? Because I'm pretty sure that's 8 Cabal points.
Just when they go to do their psychic phase, you'll be like, hey man, open up to the Cabal points page real quick and maybe keep some dice that tell me how many points you have right now, and let's work through this together.
Yeah. Also, system that TJ Lanigan showed me that works really nicely. Track your smites.
Oh, TJ's got the psychic phase tracking down. He is the only psychic phase from a Thousand Suns player that I have ever understood.
Yep. He communicates it so clearly and so openly that it's like, okay, I know exactly what you're doing to me. It hurts a lot, but I know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any particular interactions that are unique to the demons and T-Sense. The only thing I can think of is that you don't get the leadership manifestation.
It's worth knowing that if your event is allowing the Thousand Suns Cabal thing to let you double gateway or double bolt, which reminds me that I have to ask about that for Mythicos.
Please do.
Because broadly, I've seen that be accepted at this point.
Yes. Because, and I've accepted it at events that I run because rules as written
It's
and
just what it
appears rules and
says.
intended, it's the way that it works. It's just that it's the first time that we've had this kind of interaction where there's been a decent Witchfire spell outside of T-Suns where you still get
Oh,
your rituals.
Also, I was
Makes
going
me
to say, you
so
also would just
annoyed.
lose your ritual.
Well, there was
otherwise.
because even Chaos Knights, if you take a Dreadblade, you don't get the Agent of Chaos doesn't do anything because they don't have the Demon Rider.
Right.
All right, let's
Hey,
continue.
Adam. All right. What is the right number of Spore Mines?
0 in your army list, but 3 Biovores shooting them every turn.
Yeah, this is from friend of the show, Francois. He brought 25 Spore Mines, like actual physical Spore Mines, to our
No, you
team's
need
event
like
this weekend.
35.
He had 25 on the board once because most of the time they were spawning and then the next turn slamming into his opponent.
Yeah, it's easy to accidentally just be like, I don't know. If your opponent plays conservatively, it's easy to just be like, they're behind this wall. If you come out, they'll run into you. If they just go, okay, I won't, then
Yeah, his kill count for the weekend of note was a Crisis unit, a Hive Tyrant from Full.
that happened to me at WTC. It was terrible.
I love that.
And a smattering of War Dogs and other smaller things. But the Crisis suit was definitely the one because his Tau opponent realized, oh no, that's 25 Spore Mines behind that building. I can't get away from this. All right. I'm skipping over that,
cheap.
Nick. I'm sorry.
I'm cheap, easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you want me to play 3 GTs with Imperial Fists and you have the army you can provide me with, I'll do it for if you pay my expenses to go to the events.
That is
Like,
cheaper.
Whatever. Like, if you pay for me to fly to an event, stay for an event, and then play at the event, like, if you want me to go to LVO and do it, that's different. We can talk about it. But whole different conversation. But I'll play Imperial Fists at 3 GT level events if you pay for everything, including the army. Because I don't own an Imperial Fists army.
It can show up.
That's an expense.
That's a pretty easy one to manifest.
Yeah.
If you
Because it
manifest
doesn't need to
me
look
all
like
those
Imperial
things,
Fists.
I'll figure it out. Like, man, is this how I show up to
To All Is Dust?
to freaking All Is Dust or Mawa? All the way to Mawa for that.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll bring Imperial Fists and I'll just be entertained all weekend. That's fine. Let's keep going.
All right. Aside from statistics, which branch of mathematics is most useful to the average 40K player?
Basic arithmetic.
Yeah, I would actually say that. Being able to quickly add things up on the fly and being able to do visual judgment. So like actual spatial awareness. I know that's kind of a weird one, but being able, we don't have it anymore in 40K. We don't have guess range, but being able to quickly look at the table and say, yeah, I'm definitely within 36 inches for this move and everything.
Oh no. Apparently I'll go to New Zealand. I mean, I guess there's probably a GT in New Zealand that I can go to for Imperial Fists, Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, dice probability is probably helpful.
That's what we said outside of statistics, because that is probability.
Yeah, probability is a statistics thing. That's what I was even lower than you, Jeremy. I was like arithmetic so that you can add correctly.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point. Especially when you're playing Flamers, being able to add 18 to any other number is a very valuable number
That's
tool
true.
to have.
The amount of times that I see people go like roll 5 dice. This is statistics, but that I see people roll 5 4-up saves, fail 3, and be like, is so funny to me.
It's great. What's our next question? And then we should probably run to the things that I need to mispronounce.
Yeah, we're actually getting pretty close to the end
of
the show question, so it's good. All right. After Mythicos and All Is Dust, is there any future GT major, super major events sponsored or presented by StatCheck?
Does anybody want to be sponsored by StatCheck?
Or presented by? I've got the Capital Clash series that I'm running in Ottawa that will probably end up adding StatCheck to, just because I'm the one that's running most of the aspects of it. We put All Is Dust in there because Nick wanted a website and I had a website present for him and I was judging the event. Mythicos, because we're all going to be there, is essentially a StatCheck event despite not having the name on it. I don't know.
I mean, I always thought the idea of like doing some commentary and doing some stats for like super majors would be fun, and we could put powered by stat check at the bottom of it if somebody wants that. Just let me
So
know.
there, and this may not happen, but there is some discussion with the Gen Z at FLG that we may be supporting. I may be supporting them on day 3 of LVO.
So we
And
may have
we
a
were
powered by stat check thing on the stats
we
as
may
part of
very
that
well be,
arrangement.
because one of the things that I created that I was reading off of it earlier is because I've been tracking GT since the beginning of the ITC season, I have every major player's events.
That's
So you can pull it up and I can be like, Anthony went to these 9 GTs and this is his record and his placement and what faction he played at each one.
Yeah, if you want us to sponsor your event or support you in some way, just message us and we can arrange stuff. Like, we're not going to be against it just for whatever reason. You just need to communicate.
Yeah. What future GT and major events are you all planning to attend in 2023? I mean, LVO would be the first one for me, following which 2 weeks later, there is Stud or Snotling, which is up here in Canada.
Is that 2 weeks after that?
That is actually 2 weeks after LVO.
Oh, that's gonna be rough to negotiate.
You're coming because Brad is coming,
We'll
and
see.
TJ should be there to defend as well.
We'll see.
But Brad has to defend his title because he won last time.
Yeah, Brad is king of Canada, or at
He
least
is
that's what he
indeed.
said when he won.
I
But
haven't planned out my 2023 beyond LVO, to be honest, guys. I
Yeah.
might,
Mine
I'll
is,
probably be I might be a
mess.
Mawa in March, depending on like how things work out. That's like my
Nice.
birthday, so I just need to figure out how that's going to work out.
Well, you're coming up to all this dust in March, right?
Yeah,
Which one of us? Oh,
Both of you.
that's in
Yeah,
my
I am,
no,
for
that's
sure.
in Tawa.
Yeah,
Stupid
it's in
words.
Petawawa.
Petawawa.
Yeah.
Words are mixing together in my brain. I'm trying to go to that one because that's on my birthday. It'll be
Yeah,
fun
and
to
aside
go
from that,
to.
the rest of my year is WTC whenever it happens to happen, and then I'll
Samesies.
fill it out because I'm running 5 events next year, and then outside of that, I need to find a dozen or so to go to.
Yeah, I'm gonna be busy. I'm doing
Oh,
WTC. I'm doing Alpine Cup. As of this morning, I'm apparently doing the Western Australian Team Championship.
Earth.
Yeah.
well, congratulations on going to like one of the most isolated places on the planet.
So we'll see how all this shakes out. Yeah. It's gonna be wild. I have no idea. Every morning, pretty much at this point, I wake up and then I look at my whiteboard full of like 40K international events and coaching that I do. And then I look back at my computer and I go, it was just supposed to be something to do instead of WoW. What the fuck happened? And that happens to me almost every morning.
And it's almost
Same,
a job
buddy.
for you.
Same.
It's so close to just being my job at this point.
Yep. I'm gonna put a pin in show questions because we are coming up well past our usual hour and a half. But I do want to add, there are 2 more that I want to cover real quick. Pending an FAQ to make the rules work, do you think GSC would benefit? You know what? Actually, that's a question for when Innis is back.
That's an Innis question.
And then, how have mono demon lists evolved since release, and do you feel it contributed to the rise in win rate percentage?
I don't think
is
they have.
Lord change
Flamers
better
are
than the
good.
Bloodthirster? Does Nurgle or Slaanesh get to show up? I mean, Nurgle won an event recently because it was
It's
just
so
nothing but
bad.
T9 spam, but they're generally not that great.
It's so bad.
I think the one thing that I have been seeing is less Bellicor. I think because a lot of and more flamers and more trash, more demonettes and fewer bloodletters, which I find is an interesting choice, but I could see why. Just because they're faster, you don't have to rely on deep strike charges. The 3d6 charge with the bloodletters is really nice, but it does cost you CP, which is you're sometimes short on. But yeah, the biggest change I've seen is the fewer lists, including Bellicor, and just taking 400 points of something else.
Fair.
All right, we've got some stuff for you to pronounce, Nathan.
The first one's easy. It's Ypsilanti. Like, whatever, guys. It's just in Michigan. Or Ypsilanti, something like that. From Alex Wangare, the northernmost 40K region in New Zealand. Am I supposed to be doing this like in a specific voice? Like, should I try to turn on my Minnesotan accent for this? Because it's really
You could
hard
always
to
go
do,
full
like,
Wisconsin on it.
Oh
Full
God,
Wisconsin.
fuck. Ugh.
I do love how both of
that
you got
TikTok
that.
channel is so good, though. If you are on TikTok, go find the Wisconsin TikTok channel because it's so good. Honestly, I hope that somehow she hears about that and we figured out that's so funny. The Scottish Conscience, which is just Chris Irvine asked, Edinburgh. Is Worcester is just Worcester, I assume, unless it's different from the way that Americans do it, and it's like Worcester or something.
Dude, what the fuck is that last one? You're gonna summon an elder god if you say that.
If I remember correctly, it's the
Welsh.
longest. Yeah, it's Wales. It's like the longest city name or something silly.
And if you want to hear it pronounced correctly, you can look up Tom Holland pronouncing it because he's like from Wales or something like that. Or not Tom Holland, it's the other guy from the spy parody film. I can't remember anymore. Kingsman, the actor from the first Kingsman film. He's from there. One of the two.
Nailed it.
Dude, I don't know anymore. Worcester. Yeah, we're gonna go to Worcester. I don't know. Anybody else? What else do you got for me?
That's all. That's in here.
Anything?
Was there
Unless
Okay,
you got
any-
private
excellent.
DMs.
I don't have
Let's just
to
quickly scroll
try
back
to-
to see if there are any big questions in the chat, but I don't think there were too many that didn't cover along this.
Oh, I hope not, because we're almost on 2 hours, you know.
You have to do the whelp and then like hit your legs and get up and leave, right?
Here, well,
Yeah, there it is.
now our podcast goes on for 4 more hours, you know, because we're just gonna have some beers and then go look at the boat, and then we're gonna go fishing, and then we're gonna have another beer, and then we're gonna have some hot dish, and then we're gonna keep going, and then we'll slap a knee again, which is how you get to the third.